Hi, I'm Pam Gunn from Friends of Fort Vancouver in Vancouver, Washington, and today we're going to practice direct drawing, a more realistic style, also known as botanical illustration, which is a scary word, but we're just going to be doing direct drawing as well as glazing. And you can see this will be the goal. This leaf that I've already done, but we're going to do one together today. I did go out early this morning and collect a number of leaves, and I ended up with these three that are beautiful because they have a lot of value changes. They aren't just one color or two colors, but I wanted to practice value changes, which means the dark areas on the leaves. I want to show you how to emphasize those using watercolors and pencil. And so our equipment today is basically taken from the art kit that is sold here at the Friends of Fort Vancouver gift shop. If you don't have one, let me go over the ingredients of this kit. We have the Prang watercolors, 16 colors, and they're very nice in that they're transparent colors. Also, there's a brush included in the kit and an extra brush in the kit. Today I have a square and a round. Either brush will work fine. There's a pencil in your kit, as well as an eraser and Strathmore watercolor paper, which is 140-pound cold press. So that is what we're going to be using, and this is 9 by 12 inches. Also, I have my magnifying glass from my grandfather, a ruler, a Micron pen 01, which you can use any pen that you have around the house. It doesn't have to be a Micron pen, but I love all of these, and I have many of these at home. And finally, artist tape. Artist tape is what I use to tape off the paper because I have several different sizes of art that I want to make on this paper, but you can use masking tape as well. But a trick to that is to pull off the masking tape and touch it to your clothing before you put it on your paper so it doesn't rip your paper when you remove it. So what we're going to do today is direct drawing. What I mean by that is we're going to take a leaf and lay it down and actually draw around the edges. I'm going to take my pencil, and rather than putting the leaf straight ahead, I'm going to angle it a little bit. And the one thing I am going to notice on this leaf right away is that I can see the shadow all around the leaf, including the stem. And so that's going to also be drawn in. So we'll go ahead and start. I'm going to start at the top and draw exactly what I see with my pencil. Go around it. This leaf has a lot of tiny little zigs and zags all around the whole entire leaf. Oh. If you break your lead, like I just did, you can keep going. All right, you want to do the other side as well. All the way around. At this point, I'm going to look for the shadow. And I'm going to put that shadow in there lightly with my pencil. This will come in handy later. And you want to look at the shadow. Is it all one value, or is there a little bit of a darker part of the shadow close to the object? That's what I'm seeing, that it's a little bit darker, closer to the leaf than it is out at the edge of the leaf. Okay, so there's the drawing. At this point, what I want to do is sit down and use my magnifying glass, and I'm going to put in all the details with my pencil. I'm going to take my magnifying glass out and really, with good light, I want to see, do those lines from this side of the leaf meet exactly together and before they go up to the sides? And the answer is no. And then I'm wondering how many lines are there? There are 12 on each side, and I'm going to lay that in. I'm going to lay 12 lines in. Okay. When you do this, you don't want to be pressing super hard. You want a light touch, and you want to hold your pencil back, not up here, but hold your pencil back loosely. It's a loose touch. Okay, at this point, this is where your pencil comes in super handy, and that is if you squint at this leaf, you want to close your eyes almost completely and just look for the dark areas, and I'm going to lay that in now. Notice how I'm holding my pencil. I'm not holding it like this. And this is exactly the same way you're going to hold your watercolor brush. So this is the way I'm going to lay it in, and the pressure is about as if I'm writing a letter. All right. Now let's talk about painting. The size of this square that I'm using is 3.5 inches by 5 inches. That is, and it's basically the size of this leaf. Okay. First of all, when you look at your paints, you're going to maybe wonder what colors are these because they aren't labeled. So I went ahead and made a cheat sheet here of all of the colors so that I could see what I have here. And it's very helpful. Of course, the white and the black, those are not transparent colors, and neither is yellow. Yellow's never transparent. But you can see what you have on your palette by use of this cheat sheet. And today I'm going to lay as a foundation the yellow because that is opaque, and so that color I want to show through the other colors. So the way you hold your brush is like this, your thumb and your 3 fingers on the brush. You don't hold the brush like this, like you're writing a letter. And you don't hold it down here or back here, right beyond the ferrule there. Okay. Then you're going to want to wet your brush so that it's not damp just on the edge or the end, but really get it wet. The habit that you develop is hold the brush properly, tap it once or twice very lightly on your rag, and go in and get your paint. This is another tip here of loading your brush. It's no good using dry paint just on the tip of your brush. You're going to get nowhere with that. You won't get beautiful color. So I am going to load my brush, which I'm doing, and bring it out onto the palette here. I want quite a bit of paint. So the steps are always the same. You get the water, you touch your rag, you get some paint, you load your brush, and you go to your object. I'm just going to start at the bottom, and I'm not going to paint it with a million strokes. I'm going to go right up in one stroke to the end. One stroke, water, tap, more paint. I'm going to repeat that all the way up. 2 strokes so far. Water, tap, get some paint. 3 strokes, 4 strokes. Okay, I'm also going to do the stem each time. Okay, so that step is finished. Okay, I'm going to dry this off. You could glaze it with the yellow and go shopping and come back and glaze a second layer, but many times it's quite handy to use a hairdryer, especially if you're impatient, which most people are, especially when they're doing watercolors. So I use the hairdryer quite a bit. If I'm doing a big painting, I may not be. If I want to see drips, and if I want to see paint moving into another area, I would never use a hairdryer. But for glazing, you can use a hairdryer pretty much. The next thing I'm going to do is just, I'm going to move on to the second layer, which is the final layer. If you look at the leaf, is, to me, it's a red-orange with the red value, which is the lightness or darkness, more dark on the left side. And then the darkest value really is those spots that we put in with the pencil. So I'm going to glaze it probably with orange and then red, and then I may put some green in with the red to make that brown for the dots. We'll see how it goes. So let's go over the steps again. We have our water. We dab our rag, dab, dab. We're going to go for the orange. I'm looking at these oranges. I don't see much difference. So I'm going to go for this orange here. I'm going to load my brush. I'm going to twirl it and really load that brush up. Water, dip, dip. And notice how I'm holding my brush. It's always the same. You don't have to remember any changes for that. Water, dip, dip, go into the orange. Okay, keep going a little bit more. Water, dip, dip, orange. I'm not rubbing it on my rag. Okay, that looks about right. It's not super watery. Okay, water, dip, dip. I'm going to take some of this, and I'm going to do another, 4 passes? Isn't that what I did last time? 4 or 5. 1 all the way up. Water. Keep going. You're glazing. You're layering. The trick is the bottom layer has to be dry, otherwise it won't work. Okay, and I'm going to go back into that stem. All right, I'm going to dry this again. Layer number 3, again, I'm going to look at my reference. And I do have it a little bit lighter on the right side, which it is a little bit lighter. I am going to go with that dark red up here. This red here. For that next layer. That may be all we need, but we'll see once we get going. You're going to want to load your brush properly. Okay, tap, tap. Load your brush really well. But you see that red was too pinkish. I'm still going to take a little brown. Okay, let's try that. All right. Water, tap, tap. I've got a loaded brush. I'm holding my brush midway down. I'm going to use just a few swipes as usual. Here we go. And really nothing's permanent. I mean, if you don't like a hue or a value, hue being the color and value, the lightness or darkness, you can easily change it in watercolor. It's really not hard. Okay, now we're going to go swooping up. Tap, tap. I'm going to need more paint. I have to make more paint. It's good to make more paint than you need. You don't have to be doing this. I'll take a little brown. Okay. All right. Well, there's our glazing. I'm going to go into the stem and do that. I'll let it dry, see what happens. Okay, now what I want to do is put in the darks. And like I said, I'm going to mix some red and green. And see if I can get a good dark that way. See how that'll do. See, that's a fairly light value, but it's beautiful. So let's just look at our leaf and lay in some darks like we did. And you can see them with your pencil drawing, your pencil marks earlier. You can use that as a guide, and you don't have to paint every one because those that you don't paint will have a lighter value and add more interest. But the darkest darks, when you do watercolor, you have to always have a good dark somewhere. Otherwise, it's pallid and uninteresting. You can't have something that's so pale. Even a super pale drawing has to have a good dark somewhere. And if you take a photograph of anything, there's always a dark. Okay, I'm just working my way through this leaf. Again, I'm holding my brush loosely. Which enables me to do loose marks, which is what you're trying to get. And we'll let this dry and see how we like it. Before I do that, I think I will lay in the shadow, however. The shadow, I'm going to use the black, super pale. It's too dark. And I've drawn my shadow in. So I'm going to draw the light. I'm going to draw the primary shadow in. I may go in and put a darker value in next to the leaf, which is what I saw when I did the initial drawing. Okay. Okay, we're gonna let this dry, see what happens. Well, these coming along. I am gonna put a little darker value where I saw the shadow next to the leaf. So I'm gonna go in and do that right now. Little slightly darker value. And the only other thing that I'm going to do for this leaf is I'm going to add some ink to it. I'm looking at my leaf as I do this to see just a loose, just for a little bit of definition. And certainly not dark, not solid lines either, and not dotted, but just loose. Just the impression of detail is what you're trying to get. And I'm basically going by the lines that I put in my watercolor, with watercolor. Okay. And there's your leaf. Experiment and try painting anything at all with glazing, whether it's a vase of flowers or a sunset or a tree. Experiment and happy painting.